in rest of the southern belt of India? And if so, why not Vizag to start with? And that's where we invested. So I think, and we got very, very warm and comprehensive response from Honorable Minister, Honorable Chief Minister, and therefore we went ahead. So we feel very energized now, and Vizag is one step as we are taking. I would say one thing: we have a 6 months plan on how we are going to grow in the state. So which tells you something, how ambitious we are.
Well, I just want to bring up the point that you made about the fact that the next 25 years will see a transformation of the Indian IT services sector. And this has been a sector that's been a huge generator as far as, export earnings are concerned. It's also been a big employer in India. As we transition to more AI-led, what is the expectation that the private sector has from industry, especially when we talk about talent? I mean, that is the single biggest competitive advantage that people talk of when they talk of India. How do we ensure that we are talent ready for this AI world? And what is the industry, private sector collaboration on that front that's needed?
So I think the core of talent and intellectual capital is India's demographic dividend, right? I mean, that's the core. Now, what you do as an industry like us is you work with education ministry, you work with colleges. We work with another roughly 120 colleges where we influence the syllabus in last 2 years of this. We have initiative like Synapse, which has nothing to do with Cognizant. We just want to impart right technology knowledge, which is market-facing today, not yesterday's market-facing. And we have done 1 million coverage in that in last 3 years. And we have now taken an ambitious goal to get to 2 million of such training. So, so it is a great opportunity. I think I always say that there is a valley of skepticism before there is a climb of hope. And in AI, we are a little bit in that space before we see the climb of hope. We certainly see it from our vantage point, how thousands of things today India doesn't do, India would be able to do from services standpoint with help of AI. And Sanjay alluded some of that too. So we are very excited, and I think our population and our young engineers are getting ready for it.
Well, Suketa, that's a good point for me to get to you, because in Jatin's words, skepticism before we get to hope. That's also the perception when we talk about manufacturing and large-scale transitioning to manufacturing, because people believe that that's already a space that China has occupied. There's a whole bunch of other countries that have taken what has moved out of China, and India is, of course, one of them. How do we build on that story? What do states like Andhra Pradesh need to do to continue to draw in investments from the rejigging of supply chains that's going on, from the resilience point of view as far as supply chains as well?
That's a great question, and I'll start with resilience is table stakes. It is not an option anymore. And speed is the last strategic advantage left for firms. So in a few months, there'll be a book from HBR that I'm working through, and we call it Intelligent Speed at Scale. And there is a simple formula, and India is a math-driven country, so I'll give you the formula. It is the speed of insight multiplied by the speed of decision multiplied by the speed of action. Now, the reason it is multiplied is because if one of them is 0, the value is 0. And companies have been working through that. And what we found is countries and companies that follow this have a disproportionate market value. Now, as you think about industrial manufacturing, the big question is operational sovereignty. If I do something, and right before we came out here, had a nice conversation that said, do I own my data or does it live somewhere else? It can be a big challenge. The second piece is technology is core part of manufacturing. And if my processes cannot be designed in one place and used all over the world, I run into issues. And I'll give you an example. A client of ours has a facility in China, 400 million of revenue created. They have 210 people, 10 people on the line, 200 running AI. The same factory at a different northern hemisphere location has 1,000 people, 10 people are writing reports, and the other 990 are on the line. What we want to be, if India is going to drive this, is on the 210 side, not on the 1,000 side.
Yeah.
And that is the structural difference, both on the speed side as well as taking advantage.
Well, that's an important point that you make, and how do we prepare to make that transition and be ready for that is the question. But Sumant, let's address the energy question as well, and the state of Andhra Pradesh is also trying to address that question through renewable means. But, you know, as we aspire for this 8% growth, as we aspire to become a $10 trillion economy, we will, of course, get to a $4 trillion economy shortly. How we need to think differently in terms of our energy mix as well, and what the imperatives are for states like Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah, thank you, Shireen. You know, let me first comment a little bit about my own or our company's experience in Andhra Pradesh. You know, we had not a very good time a few years ago. But I think when the current Chief Minister came in along with Lokesh, you know, things just changed totally for us. The kind of responsiveness, the kind of welcome that they sort of gave us was so remarkably different from what we had been experiencing until that point in time, that it, you know, it sort of totally changed our minds about the state, even though going into it we were quite skeptical because of our prior experience. And there were 2-3 things that happened, which I think goes to the way in which the current dispensation operates. One is that they came to us and they said, why don't you make Andhra Pradesh your home state? Right now we are based in Delhi. You don't have a lot of renewable energy capacity in Delhi or Haryana, obviously, right? So that can't be our home state. And that thought really appealed to me. It really resonated strongly with me. And I thought, you know, Andhra has a lot of good natural resource. What it did not have was enlightened leadership, which it now has. And why should we therefore not think about exactly what they were telling us? And you know, it took us a little bit of time to come sort of to accept that premise. But I think the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. And that's why we decided to put in all our chips into Andhra in a way, right? And I give full marks to both Lokesh and to the Honorable Chief Minister for that. The second thing is accessibility was phenomenal. You know, Lokesh gave me his number. I'm in touch with him, and he, you know, when you talk about speed, he responds very fast. So if you message him, he responds back to you definitely before the end of the
Are
day.
you using an agent, by the way, or are you actually responding to messages yourself?
So that's a good point. I'll sort of try to give a very difficult, complex message the next time, which may require some personal intervention. And then I'll get back to you and let you know what happens. But that is the second thing. You know, the accessibility was really very good. And that's unusual in India. It's not very common. The third thing was not just the speed of responding to WhatsApp messages, but the speed of decision making. I think that was something that was also quite remarkable. And it's a very flat hierarchy. You know, you talk to Lokesh, you talk to the Honorable Chief Minister, and you're pretty much, you know, the decision gets made. And of course, it has to then be implemented, and all the proper documentation has to be done, and everything has to be checked out. But obviously, when the political side is pushing so hard, then the bureaucracy also tends to, not always, but tends to fall in line as much as possible. So I think our experience, therefore, has been very positive. And that's why, you know, we were looking to set up our ingot wafer line and for solar manufacturing. And we talked to many states, and many states are actually very unhappy with us for having gone to Andhra Pradesh, which I find is it's good for us when we go to Andhra Pradesh, but it's bad for us when we go to almost any other state now, because actually there's such competition now between the different states. It's actually quite interesting. So I think that's been our experience. The land has been allocated. We're now going to lay the foundation stone and get moving forward. And you know, we're looking at what else we can do in the state. You know, so I think that's really. Not answering your question.
No, but you know, I think you actually raised a very important point, because I think that's a relevant point, especially for people who are looking at investing in India as fresh investments, or even people who are looking at incremental investments. Policy continuity, tax certainty, policy predictability, political continuity as well. Decisions that you may have taken may get overturned by another government, by another dispensation, as was the case with Sumant. In this case, it actually worked to his advantage. But, you know, how do you allay those apprehensions? How do you allay some of those concerns that investors may have?
I mean, that is a challenge for the entire political system. I mean, if you look at it globally, to be fair, I think the Indian political system definitely looks a lot better. Saying that, I believe that there's greater maturity now coming in, and it requires greater discussion. But behind, all the investments, we're talking about, X amount of dollars or Y amount of land that's required. But the most fundamental point is the number of jobs we're going to create. And that is the narrative that this time around, as a state, we're very focused upon. It's important to explain to people that what's the impact that each of these investments will have and the kind of jobs it's going to create. So you create a very strong momentum so that things cannot be overturned. Yes, things have been reversed in the past, but I believe it's been an isolated incident for Andhra Pradesh in one administration. But look at it. Look at Hyderabad. What are the foundations that Mr. Naidu laid in '94 have been continued. And look at the city today. Look at the state today. It has the highest per capita income in India. Because the narrative was set. So it's equally important for the politicians to not just look at this from an investment perspective, but also build a narrative so strong that whoever comes, I believe that there'll never be a change in Andhra Pradesh. NDA will be governing Andhra Pradesh for the foreseeable future, saying that it's important to ensure that a strong narrative is there and we are able to convince people at every point as we go forward.
And that's an important point that you make. So I just want to build a little bit on this narrative that you want to build on the back of the jobs that these investments will create. What's part of that package? Jobs, of course, will be one pillar, but what's part of the package that you're going to be communicating, not just domestically, but internationally as well?
No, see, as a state, we have a clear direction, right? We have the Swarnandhra mission, which is where we see Andhra Pradesh in 2047. So we have clear targets, we have clear sectors. We just spoke about manufacturing and the importance of, speed in manufacturing. I also believe that the way we have looked at it is a cluster-based approach. I've had opportunity to share that with you. And that's where we are working with Renew, and they've been supporting our initiative on a rapid prototyping center, which we want to bring in from Sydney and bring it into their ecosystem. So we are working on a very cluster-based approach where there's a tight integration between verticals and horizontals. Horizontal is education, certification, and so on and so forth. Verticals are all the different components and the players who are there, who make up the entire ecosystem, which I truly believe is missing in India as we speak. And that's why we are struggling with manufacturing. We are not at the pace at which we should be as a nation. And I believe the experiment that we are doing in Andhra Pradesh could be a model that can be replicated in India.
Sanjay, I want to go back to the point that was just being made there by Lokesh about jobs and the importance of tying that up to the narrative of drawing in investments. There's a lot of concern around AI and what AI could do to jobs, but equally there's optimism around the kinds of new jobs that AI could perhaps create. We've seen that happen with YouTube. We've seen a whole creator economy blossom on account of the opportunities that has thrown up. But as we ready ourselves for this AI future, what will the imperatives be from your standpoint that we need to focus on, states like Andhra Pradesh, other states, India needs to focus on?
I think that's a good point. Before I get there, I just want to answer one question which Sumanta raised, or the point there. He has Lokesh's number, I don't. But still,
I'm going to get you to start a WhatsApp group now.
The speed is still the same. I think the point is, I think the governance is working because of transparency and commitment to get investment going. And that's a good point in favor of what Andhra is able to pull off. To come back to your question, it's such an important point what Lokesh made and you made. I think AI needs to be deployed not only for business productivity, but for governance in the state. And I think that's an important thing we shouldn't lose sight of. And what do people want in society? They want good governance, they want jobs, they want better incomes. And I feel AI-powered governance is the really way forward. And I have 4 themes around there, which I'll call AI-powered, what I call SEVA. The S stand for Sarkar. Run a better Sarkar. I think RGTS is a good example of what you do in Andhra, but I think to me that needs to become for every person in the state. Everybody should see I can reach out even without having a number, get my problem solved and find the right information. Second is E, which is e-safety or e-security. The biggest issue in the future would be that will be the challenges on cybersecurity and information and data. How do you ensure that AI is used to power that? The third is W, which is workforce. We need to have AI-ready workforce. We need to get our young children to use AI from a young age and teachers, so that we have that workforce ready from 5 years and 10 years from now. And third is what I call A is agriculture, health, mobility, but transform all these. Because we can improve productivity of agriculture using AI. We can transform health using AI. We can transform mobility using AI.
Yes.
Or urban development using AI. So I feel we need to get ready together as basically whether it is people who are creating applications or people like us or governance to do AI Seva, to really make a difference. If society is happy, if people are happy, if I earn more money, then I'm willing to believe and invest more time and energy.
No,
I think
absolutely. That's a great point that you make. Technology for the sake of technology has no purpose. It has to be put to use for people. I'm going to get wrap-up comments from each one of you. And Jatin, let me start by asking you, since we're talking about the fast lane, investing at the speed of growth, you're a numbers man. So what is the one number that we should focus on from the state's point of view that they should get done?
From state's point of view, not from Cognizant point of view?
Both. It could be Cognizant and what Cognizant can do for the state.
I think jobs is one thing, but I would say slightly differently. I think, as I mentioned, rebirth of services. I think what we should see is what we are getting to Vizag in terms of different services, newer services, which can run for another 25 years, which can create next set of entrepreneurs and next set of professionals that IT services creators started from here. So I think the key is not so much quantitative to your question, but qualitatively why the new services should come to Vizag. And I'll just take one more minute. The fear of, I can assure you people sitting in this room and watching that, take this fear of jobs around AI out. We have been here when package implementation first came, people said, you are doing all application development. If now there is SAP Oracle, who will come to you? When cloud came, we were managing millions of network elements, databases, and servers on premise. People said, who will come to you now for infrastructure management? Now it's cloud. So why AI should be different? Let's just take on. We have built an industry which has grown every year for the last 25 years. AI, I'm telling you, is a rebirth. It's a rejuvenation of the industry that we want to bank on.
Well, so don't get carried away by the obituaries that are being written on account of AI, of many sectors and many jobs and tasks. So Ketu, your prescription for the road ahead.
I think the simple prescription is, I think Lokesh said something really important. How do you build the ecosystem that can deliver on a particular vertical? So let me give you an example. I can go to Shenzhen and design a drone, get the software for it, scale it up, and launch it in 4 weeks or less. So the first thing is to decide which areas are you going to compete on. Now, what does it require? I'm a supply chain guy, so it's a pretty boring business. We go all the way from product design to planning to distribution to assembly to energy and bring it all together. And then the last most important thing is talent. There is no shortage of talent in India right now. But the other areas, you have to decide that I'm going after this sector and I'm going to reduce the time. I would say anything that takes longer than 12 weeks to execute is too long. What used to be years is months. What used to be months is weeks. And what used to be weeks, Google has, I think they've changed the time clock. It's what, milliseconds, nano? I don't know what they did, but it runs faster. So those are what I would call strategic choices to make if you're going to take advantage of what you have. And we have seen it consistently that if you do that, the payoff